Let me see it then.
I
No,
woke up at
it's fine.
4:30 this morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's early rising.
Today is September 15th, 2015, and we're here with,
2015?
I'm sorry. Today is September 15th, 2024, and we're here with Helen Decker Droegemeier, and we're going to ask her just a few questions. Here today with us, Ken Guard, Linda, her daughter, her youngest daughter, and William, her grandson. So, Helen, when were you born?
I was born August the 1st, 1927.
And where were you born?
I was born in a little farm town. Well, it was a farm, and we was out in the country, and the nearest town was Rossville, which was small.
Were you born in a hospital?
No, I was born in the home.
I see. And who was your mother?
My mother was Dora Marie Semeski Amonshew.
And your dad?
Dad was Philip. Let's see, Philip Amonshew. Can't think of his middle name.
So, how old were you when you first went to school?
Went to school. I was probably about 6 or 7 years old in a country school,
And what was the name of that school?
Kingsville.
How many kids were in your class?
I think I was the only one.
Okay. So they just had one teacher and only you?
I was the only one in the first grade.
Oh.
And my brother Marvin, who was a couple of years younger than me. I think most of the classes only had one or two people. It was a country school.
How many teachers?
One.
What can you tell me about your life before you were in school?
Before I went to school?
Yes.
Oh gosh, let me see. Well, one thing I remember was we had neighbors that Mom and Dad were real popular with. They played cards, and they had two boys my age. One was my age and one was 2 years older. I remember one morning, Mom having Marvin and I in a little tin wagon and pulled me out to the road where the mail was put in a mailbox. And the neighbor lady met her out there, and they had their morning talk. Each morning they come and met one another and had a morning walk. I remember that. I don't know what they talked about, but it was the two women. That was
Grandma,
so,
her neighbor.
uh-huh. Yeah.
What did your dad do for a living?
My dad was a farmer.
How many acres?
What?
How many acres?
He had 80 acres, and then any chance he got to rent, he would rent some more land. But the land was, well, it wasn't very often that the farmer would
Give it up.
let go of his land. And the 80 acres was mainly the size of the farms. And Dad also had cows. He milked cows, but he didn't sell his milk. He fed it to the pigs and us kids.
He had pigs.
Yeah, he had pigs and cows. and horses and mules.
And what did he grow?
He grew wheat, oats, corn, and then he had another thing. I always called it, let's see, kaffir corn. It was a long stemmed plant, and they fed it to the cows.
Is it like Milo?
Huh?
Milo?
Yeah, something like that. There
Okay.
was, they fed it to. No, the Milo was more or less a seed. It was given to the chickens. I just threw out on the ground. And
How many chickens?
probably about 50. Not anymore. He only had one chicken house, so he had to put them in at night. They had roosts in there. They roosted, and then he had along one wall was egg nest where the chickens
Would lay their eggs.
later and he didn't. Mom didn't like ducks or turkeys or anything like that. They was too messy. That for one thing, the turkeys had and turkeys and the what can I say? Ducks and that. Their droppings was messy, and us kids always during the summer went barefooted. Mom didn't like that. She had to clean us kids all the time, so she just didn't raise them.
Did your dad sell eggs?
Yeah, once in a while he'd sell them to somebody come and want to buy eggs from him. But mostly on Saturday night we went to Rossville to what in the heck they call that store? They saved their cream and their eggs and any vegetables and that from the garden, and went to this here building. What was he called? And he sold them. He sold the stuff there. Mainly the cream was hard to keep back then, so he made, if he got a big bucket full of it, and that he'd have to make the second day in the middle of the week if he had and he had what do you call it? Where they separator. They separate the cream from the milk down in the basement of the house, and it was a round machine with little discs in it, and you wind this thing up, and it's put the cream in one bucket, and with the little discs and the just the plain milk in the other one. Now those plain little discs were hard to wash. Guess whose job it was to clean them?
Who?
That was my job. And Marvin, I think he was older, he had the wheel to that separated. That's what they called it, a separator.
How many children did your mother and father have?
I was the oldest, Marvin, Bobby, and then later in life, Mom had Linda. And she had one baby between Linda and Bobby that died during birth from a disease that is, I don't know what they call that. It was common though for women that miscarry. Oh, when they had I don't know how to explain it. But that was Donna Marie. She's buried in the Rossville
Cemetery.
cemetery.
And-
And that was all of the children Mom had.
Did you have indoor plumbing, indoor toilet, or an outdoor toilet?
No, we had outdoor toilet. We had to fight the turkey to get to the toilet.
And then what about running water in the house? Did you have a faucet in the kitchen?
No,
You had a well?
we had a well. They had a well, sink in the kitchen where she washed the dishes. There was a little hand pump that she pumped the water from. There was a outside of the kitchen door was a big round hole that had a cement top on it, and that was what they call that?
Cistern?
Cistern. The cistern, and pumped the water through that pump. Now our drinking, that was not drinking water. That was only for use in the house, like washing dishes and washing clothes. The water we drank and Mom used to cook the food was a pump, a well that sat outside of the kitchen door about, I'd say it was about 15 feet. And that was our regular drinking water.
And how did you get the water out of that well?
In a bucket, and I carried it in the house.
But did you let the bucket down in the well on a rope, or did it have a pump at the top?
Well, some of them, we didn't have any open down there. We pumped it from the well.
Did you have a radio in the house when you were a kid?
Not until I was older. We didn't have any telephone or radio till later. That I can remember. And I can remember, let's see, we didn't have TV while I was at home. It was after I was out of, married, before we had TV in the home, my home.
Well, what year did you get married?
I married Willis Decker. And what in the heck year was it I married?
1945.
Yeah, 1945.
And,
That was the year you graduated.
Yeah.
and how did you meet Willis?
I graduated from high school in 45. I worked for Santa Fe offices in Topeka, and we got married on the 27th of October in 1945
And where did you meet Willis?
at school,
He went to school with you?
high school only.
Only high school.
Yeah, he came from a different school than I did. Yeah,
Did you go to Sunday school when you were a child?
I can remember Dad's side of the family was Catholic, and Mom didn't. She went once in a while to the Presbyterian church. She was from the little town of Delia, north of Rossville, and she went to it. We never went to. Now Dad did take us. Marvin and I went to the Catholic church, and what do you call it?
Confirmation.
Yeah, we went to, it was like Sunday school, but they called it a different name than that. And but Dad, about the only day he'd take us kids to school was Easter Sunday, and at Christmas. He managed to take Marvin and I to the Catholic church in Rossville.
Do you remember your name of your teacher when you were in first grade?
First grade. I can't remember her name, but I can remember sightseeing. I can see her sitting up there at the desk in a wooden chair.
And then,
And the heat was from an old heating stove. They had to carry in wood, and Dad and one of the other men usually went. There was a place south of Rossville was a coal. They well, what do you want? They harvest coal that you, and then also there was a hardware in Silver Lake, and you could buy little clumps of coal for the smaller stove that you couldn't get the big chunks in even if you beat them up with a hedgehammer.
how did you heat your house where you lived?
Keep it well. We had we did not heat the bedrooms. There was no bathroom. We heated the kitchen only when Mom was cooking, and the dining room and living room were together, and it was a big old pot. What do you call it?
Potbelly?
Pot-bellied
Stove?
stove. Uh-huh.
What did your mother cook on?
Mom had a cook stove out in the kitchen.
Electric?
Oh no, we didn't have electricity till after I left home. There was no electricity, and I don't believe in the house while I lived there. Same way with the telephone. We never had anything.
Did your dad have a car?
Well, let's see. He had a car. At first, the first I can remember, Dad's travel was a wagon and a team of horses. And that's what we would go to buy the groceries at Silver Lake. Silver Lake was about 7 miles away and one way, and Rossville was about the same distance the other way. And that was our transportation. I don't believe I know of ever going to Topeka, which was a big town then. Yeah. And Mom's cooking was done with corn cobs that you went out. Us kids had to go out and pick out of the pig pen after the pigs had ate the corn over them. And Dad and Grandpa Amanchew, my Grandpa Amanchew, always kept a pile of little sprigs of for the kitchen stove. I don't know whether Mom ever cooked with coal or not. And in the winter time, they had Grandpa and Dad and Uncle Harold would, in every fall of the year, they would go up to Grandpa's. He lived with the creek went by back of the house there, and they cut trees, and Grandpa had some kind of a machine that they cut the limbs in blocks about 12 inches that would fit into the stove, the stove in the living room, and that's how that and the coal. Eventually, they got electricity, but Mom got electric stove in the kitchen, and I don't know. Dad, I think they pretty well used wood as long as I was at home, I can remember. I don't Dad having any electric in the out in the, in the living room and that to heat the room and that. We liked to, us kids had one bedroom. The boys and I all slept in the same bedroom, and we asked Mom to let the cat sleep with us because she kept her feet warm, and she did. And it was eventually the boys got a little room off to the side, and that was their room. I got the great big room for my bedroom, and of course I got the cat.
Uncle, you said Uncle who?
Harold?
Pardon?
You were talking about your uncle?
My Uncle Harold was Dad's older brother. He was older than Dad.
And did he live with you?
No, he lived with the grandpa and grandma up on the hill north of the little town of Rossville, and he lived with them till he got married, and then Grandpa bought 2 farms. Uncle Harold took the one down on the river, and Dad took the one that where we, and the only water we had, there was a pond on Dad's farm that it was mostly just water, muddy water, that when it flooded, Cross Creek up at Rossville flooded, it'd come down this dike or
Canal.
Anyway, it'd come down and it would flow into
Your pond?
the well or the pond there, and there was fish in it. We got sometimes as kids got to. Dad would never let us go to the pond by ourselves, never. Marvin and Bobby liked to ice skate, and we didn't have any ice skates, so we took tin cans and tied on the bottom of our feet and used them. I sat on the ice the biggest share of the time. I couldn't even keep myself up on the tin cans.
Did you have a bicycle?
Yeah,
Did you have a bicycle?
no. Bobby, I think Bobby got a bicycle. Somebody gave to him, and he didn't have any way. They didn't have pumps at the farm place, so he went out and filled the tire with corn, and he'd drive that bicycle, and then he'd have squash corn for the chickens.
So you went to that one-room school that just had one teacher. Till what grade did you go to a school that had more than one teacher?
Well, let's see now. I went to Kingsville. Kingsville School was where I first. Now wait a minute. And then that lady quit teaching, and then Marvin was old enough then when we went to a school number 5. They called it. It was halfway between our home and the little town of Silver Lake. But this school was out in the country, and there was it only had one teacher too. That's all it had for the whole team, because there wasn't kids in every class.
How did you get to school?
Well, I walked.
How far?
It was probably about a mile and a half, and I walked from our farm over to the where the water came down from Rossville. It was what do you call it?
A dike?
A dike, and then it jogged over onto a dirt road for about I'd say a quarter of a mile. I had to walk on down to the school. Well, later on, Dad got a car. Well, but before he got that, I rode a horse. Dad would ride the horse, I'd ride behind him, and he'd take me on ride the horse around the road. Or sometimes if it wasn't muddy in that, he'd ride on top of the dike that went. Because this dike eventually flowed into what was Silver Lake. That was the bigger lake than what was at Dad's place. And, well, let's see, what else is about?
What was the name of your horse?
Queenie.
Queenie.
And she was red, about the color of that stuff over there, that darker. And then there was what was the black one? There was a black one. But Queenie was the one that was the easiest to ride. And Dad finally got a better car, and I never learned to drive a car until I married Willis. And that was a problem.
Now, what about your
I
mother?
hated driving cars. Huh?
What about your mother? She had a mom and dad. Did you know them?
Mom had mother and Dad was still alive when I was still at home. They lived in another town that was further north of Rossville called Delia. That's where Mom grew up, in the little town of Delia. She was one of the first one in Delia. She ran the phone office up there. She was a telephone operator. And,
Who, Dora?
Dora. Mm-hmm.
My grandma was?
Uh-huh.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was.
She ran the telephone office.
Yeah, in Delia. And Mom, I don't see. Mom had one sister, and she grew up. When she grew up, she married, and they moved to California. We never seen much of them during my lifetime. That was Aunt Grace, and what in the world was his name? I can't remember it.
And what did your grandfather do? Your mother's father?
Let's see. Who's my
Your
Dora's
mother?
father.
Dad's?
Doris. What did Dora's father do for a living?
Well, he was a traveling. Well, what do you call him? But he went all over the country selling cattle for people. And then he'd have them shipped to the little town of Kingsville. There, you very seldom ever hear about it. A lot of people don't even know Kingsville existed. But they had a, what would
Like
they?
an auction?
Well, no, the railroad was there, and on the north side of the railroad, they built wooden fences around there, and he'd have the cowboys bring the cows in and put them in this here wooden fence place, and then when they got enough, they shipped them by train to the big auction place in
Like in Kansas City Stockyards?
Yeah, and that's what. But he went out. He traveled an awful lot. He very seldom was home, and made sales and that from people to sell their cattle and get them over to the place where they ship them on to.
Yeah.
To the grandma didn't work outside of the home.
That was Nettie.
That was Nettie, and they're
I remember her.